the second wave. It's really different this time, isn't it? So in California, we're having a lot more cases. They're calling it the second wave, and it feels like, for me, it's different. So for the first wave, I experienced it on the front lines. I was in a hospital. I went to that meeting at USC when they were talking about this early March. I was in a hospital later in March when they were talking, oh, what are we going to do with all these cases? Let's prepare. We're going to run out of supplies, PPE, personal protective equipment, masks, gowns, all these things. What do we do? Do we need to wear N95 masks? Can we just get away with surgical masks? What is this thing with a face shield? This was back early in days. This feels like forever ago. It was just March a few months ago. And now we're having a second wave in California, Texas, Florida. There's a lot more cases. There's more than there ever were before in March. Florida surpassed New York's numbers. It's bad. It's crazy. But for me, it's different because right now I'm not working in a hospital. I read about news, but it's sort of a little bit distant. If you notice here, it's a little bit different background because I'm actually at my friend's place. We're working on a project together. If we do end up getting it finished, I'll definitely let you guys know. But the idea is that my friend works in a hospital, and he's currently working in a hospital. Not only that, he works in an emergency room where he sees lots of people coming in for all sorts of things, and he tests a lot of people. In a hospital, as a hospital doctor, I prefer people be tested before they come to the floor where I see them. So we know beforehand. Emergency room doctors are the one determining whether they're at risk or not. They're the ones actually initiating. They're the ones who encounter people who they may not know have it until they figure it out later, which by then it's too late, right? You should have protected yourself. So he's worn a lot of protection, shall we say. And right now he was thinking, oh, it's going to get better. Dude was just telling me a week or so ago, thinking I'm going to be able to wear less, but suddenly the cases shot up. The cases shot up. It's correlating with what you're reading in the news. We're seeing a lot more cases. He's seeing a lot more cases. It all makes sense. This is not fake news. And the question is, how did it affect him? And yeah, initially he was bummed. He's like, oh, a lot more cases. Well, yeah, pretty clear there's a lot of this stuff. Yeah, even saw it in the little baby. I'm not really sure that baby was on death's bed. Hope the baby's going to do okay. I'm sure the baby has it. Do you really swab them? Do you not? Is it a moot point because we don't really have treatment? But just the other day, his mood changed. What happened? Well, one of his own got it. Another fellow doctor. It's not just a doctor who's very sloppy. It's a doctor who protects himself very well. So you may hear about N95s. There's N100s, which are even better. He wears an N100. This doctor wears an N100. This doctor protects himself very well, but yet he got it. And guess what? He's very young, fit, healthy, right? My friend's a little bit on the bigger side. He could be a little bit healthier. But this doctor is pretty fit. He works out regularly. He shouldn't get it, you would think, right? Well, so he started talking through his thoughts like, what's the point if this guy could get it? I mean, I'm at much higher risk, right? I could definitely get it. And he wears a lot of protection. Is there any point to this protection? But obviously we knew he was just voicing thoughts because there is a point to protection. It reduces your risk. Doesn't take it down to zero, but it reduces your risk. And here's the thing I was thinking about. So the idea that it being scary, sometimes, you're just so in it that you just get used to it. Many doctors who have worked in hospitals since March, they feel they've gotten through the brunt of it. They feel, oh, I'm okay. I'm probably immune to this thing, or I've gotten it already, or I just can't get it. One of those special few. So they don't worry about wearing a mask. They just are, pretty sloppy and like, oh, that N95 is too much trouble. Let me just wear that regular surgical mask. So they get sloppy, right? They think they're invincible. Maybe they're just too used to hearing about coronavirus. No big deal anymore. But it's still a big deal. An analogy I want to tell you is that when you have a change in safety, right? Yes, we get sick of it, but you don't have to give up. And the perfect example of that is parents and their children. So apparently the world is getting more unsafe nowadays. Did you know that? I mean, when I was little, me and my brothers, we would just bike around our neighborhood. We'd go to our friend's house, we'd bike around their neighborhood. Our parents wouldn't know where we were. We didn't have cell phones, obviously. We just run around, and until dark or whenever we get tired, we go home for dinner. They may tell us, hey, be home at 6 or 7. And, we're not really clear. We'll go home sometime because we don't even have watches, right? And so, yeah, unsupervised play, sometimes playing on streets, all very unsafe nowadays. We'd walk home from school. Lots of people walked home from school. Very unsafe, right? So parents, did they just decide, oh, I'm sick of dealing with this safety thing for my kids. So much trouble. I think it's just fake news. Let me just go back to letting them roam freely. It's much easier. They like it more anyways, right? Yeah. People like it. Doctors like it. They're the same as people. They are people, right? Doctors like it when they don't have to wear masks. They don't like it when they don't have to wear gowns. Perfect, right? Well, in a sense, it's perfect for your comfort, but you're there for your kid's safety, right? Like, yeah, you want your kid to enjoy themselves growing up, but you want them to be safe. You'd rather they be safe, actually, than have a good time, right? You don't want your kid who's 15 to go out drinking in a party. That's just bad. Bad news waiting to happen. Yeah, your kid may not have a fun time at a party because you taught him well not to drink. But guess what? You're not going to regret the decision when your kid comes home. Mom, I wasn't drinking. I know you told me not to drink, so I didn't drink, but it was just not as fun as all these other kids. You may commiserate and say, oh yeah, but secretly inside you're grinning. Your smile's like the Cheshire Cat. You're happy the kid listened because this is what you need to do to keep your kid safe, right? I think that's the thing we need to tell ourselves. We're little kids sometimes. We grow tired. We make bad decisions, but we got to tell ourselves this thing is not over. We got to keep at it. We got to keep ourselves safe. And I think that's one thing that's important to know. Yes, it's dragging on forever, but just because it's going on forever, just because the news media may not be covering as much, doesn't mean it has disappeared. It's still there, present more than ever, and we're learning more and more about this virus. How it does all this crazy stuff to the rest of you. You do not want to get this. We're seeing more and more how young people die. These people who swore they're not wearing a mask because, oh, I don't believe it's real news, and then they end up dying. It's a real thing. Keep yourself safe, right? If you think about it that way, you don't ever give up on safety. You can give up on comfortableness. It's just not going to be so comfortable. We'll get used to that. But we do not give up on safety.